Hello, and welcome to another edition of 360 Half Seconds. I'm Kia from 360 Vet Sales, and with me today is Matt Arena from 360 Vet Sales. Matt, how are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Kia?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So we got an interesting topic today. And before I get into it, I'm just going to remind everybody how this works. I'm going to ask Matt a question. He has 360 half seconds or 3 minutes to answer the question. If he's on a roll, I might let him go a little bit over. Um, so Matt, you ready to do this?
Yeah, here we go.
Okay. So this one, like most of our questions, comes to us, because we get this question a lot during client meetings or prospective client meetings. One thing that we're seeing a lot of is that we're getting a lot of practices that have multiple owners. It could be two, it could be three, it could be four, and just like anything else, when there's that many decision makers, there can be difficulties. So the question today is, Matt, how best should a group with multiple partners navigate a practice sale? What are the things that are most important when you have multiple partners to take into consideration when you're doing a practice sale?
Yeah, this is a great one. Because what you see is, and this is really in any industry, but whenever you have a business that is trying to sell, but it's got multiple owners, and sometimes they're not equal. So sometimes someone only owns 10%, the other owns 90, or you've got three or four owners with an equal split of equity. Anytime you add more people to the mix, you're adding a layer of complication. So it's important that before you even decide to sell, that you kind of tackle some things internally amongst yourselves as owners. And I think the biggest thing is you want to be aligned. You want to be consistent and have a plan of how you're going to do it. And what I mean by that, I'm going to get into some of the details, but the very first thing is all the owners should get together and say, okay, what are our goals in this process? What are we all looking for? And you want alignment. You don't want, theoretically, you don't want this situation. I've got three owners that are practicing DVMs. Let's walk through this. And two of the DVMs want to be done the day of the sale. The other ones wants to work for another 10 years. Though that could work, that adds a lot of complication because I don't know how many doctors that practice has, but let's say they have seven doctors, but two of them don't want to work anymore. Well, you're going to lose that production. It's going to decrease the value. You're therefore punishing the doctor that is going to work the other 10 years. And maybe you guys are aligned on that. That's okay. But you just the best world situation, if you have three or four doctors or multiple doctors that are all owners, is that you're all willing to work the anywhere from 3 to 5 years more, at least under the contract terms from the buyer side, and that you get aligned on other things like what type of deal structure are you okay with? Do you all
Right.
want a full purchase or is it JV? Like where are you guys at from that perspective?
JV being joint venture.
Joint venture, yeah, thank you. Because those are the two key structures that we see in the industry. The other
Or
thing
what
that
kind
I
of
think,
buyer do you want, right? Like, do you want
yeah,
a buyer that's going to come in and, maybe give you a higher price, but they're going to change everything? Or
yep,
are you willing to take less money to make sure that whoever buys your practice is going to keep everything the way it is?
yep.
These are really points of alignment that can really like have a deal fall apart if you are not on the same page.
You don't want to, I can't stress this enough. You don't want to enter into the process. You don't want to work with a broker. You don't want to go to market on your own and try to sell without these questions being concrete before you even go to market. Because
Absolutely.
though it can work, most of the time when I hear about messy stories, it's because this wasn't aligned on day one before they went to market and tried to sell.
Exactly.
And then you get
Exactly.
into there's arguments and just things you don't want to have happen. Um,
Right.
the other thing, kind of piggybacking off of that, it's not, I would just say it's best practice. If you've got multiple owners, you should really identify one owner to kind of be the key point person to work with the broker, to work with the buyers. It doesn't mean that everybody can't be involved, but you want to have someone that's kind of the key person to represent your interests. It just makes it a little cleaner and easier. It's
Yeah.
also, you start running into identifying differing opinions in the middle of the conversation versus when you have one key person, they can really lead the transaction. But I would also say I've seen it multiple times behind the scenes, right after the call with buyer or whoever it may be. everybody gets together and does a decision-making process. And that's the other thing that's real important. How are you going to make decisions when you guys are trying to get aligned? Are you going to do it by committee? Is it going to be, majority rule? What is it going to be? Do you guys all have to 100% agree? And so
Right.
I think it's real important that you know who the key point person is, and then also how you're going to be doing the decision making when you're looking at something like that and you have multiple owners.
So if I can kind of shrink that down into kind of like a soundbite, it's like really what you're saying is you want to be speaking with one voice. Behind the scenes, talk about whatever you need to, but when you're presenting back to the broker, back to the buyer, you do want to be speaking with one voice to keep things very simple, to keep things easy on the buyer side to understand like where you're coming from and
Exactly.
not introduce those complexities. And then I think the other thing that you brought up, which I think is really important, is, and we see this more where you have multiple buyers, like 3, 4, 5 buyers. How is that decision going to be made? Is it a situation where, hey, if 3 of you say we want X and 2 of you say we want Y, do you need to have 100% consensus there, or is it okay? Is it like, hey, 3 beats 2, and that's the decision we're going to make? And if you do make that decision, are the other 2 that didn't get their way, you know, going back to your earliest point, are they going to basically say, okay, well, we agree to that because we agreed to this from the beginning that this was how we're going to make these decisions?
Right.
Anything else on this?
No, I think that, I mean, those would be my top bullet points on what's important when you're doing that. I think that's the key to that process.
What we specialize in as brokers is helping you kind of do all this. So, if you're in a situation where you're looking to sell and you're having trouble getting everybody on the same page, come talk to us because we can at least walk you through what this process is going to look like. We can walk you through what deal structures are going to look like so that you have some information up front so that then you can go back to your partnership group and start discussing these things that knowledge and understanding how to make these decisions. One of the things that we see uh, that really works against some of these practices is that when they're not aligned in these situations, they miss good opportunities. There have, the market has been great the last 2 years, and I've worked with practices where you have a couple owners that really want to take advantage of that, a couple owners that don't really know much about it, aren't, and therefore aren't ready to make a decision. So come talk to us. Let us tell you what's going on out there so you have all the information you need so that you can go back and make a decision that's going to work best for you.